time there was truth in journalism, where brave men and women gave voice to the voiceless. But then the corporations bought the journalist, poisoning the news that we are fed. With those tainted sources, all we ever ate was a steady diet of status quo. This hijacked narrative hid the truth of mass suffering, injustice and corruption throughout our land. Status quo, status quo, status quo, status quo. To expose this shift to oligarchy came a band of honest journalists. They left the studio and hit the streets to give the microphone back to the people. From sea to sea, the people were empowered to share their truth. Their voices no longer stifled, reclaimed their...
Hey there, what's up? Jordan Chariton, live. Almost 1 o'clock Eastern time. I am live a little bit early today because, boy, do we have some news. Let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if you can see me. My shirt is discolored for some reason, but we will go on. Regardless of that, I think there's something odd with the camera, but I digress. Why is it showing up so weird? Hold on. 1 o'clock. Well, you could hear me, you could see me well enough. I don't know why it's so distorted. Let me see something. Output, stream, video. Looks like everything's good there, so maybe it's YouTube. Let me know if you could hear me. Let me know if you could see me. Quite the big news, that John Bolton, the essentially biggest warmonger probably known to man. I mean, it's kind of close when you have Dick Cheney, John Bolton. Which one's worse? I'd have to go with John Bolton, but it's close. John Bolton, progressives, anti-war activists, even some neoliberals were very, very, very upset and worried when he was named National Security Advisor to Donald Trump, because obviously Donald Trump is this kind of ideological canvas, like a blank canvas, and a lot of the advisors around him are warmongers and neocons. John Bolton obviously was a cheerleader for the Iraq War. He has encouraged us going to war with Iran, going to war with North Korea, going to war with Syria. I mean, honestly, John Bolton in the middle of the night is probably dreaming of countries he could create and birth new countries to go to war with and bomb. So this was very, very concerning and alarming when he was brought on as National Security Advisor, because Trump, and I don't support Donald Trump, that's obvious. I hope he loses re-election. But Trump sold people that voted for him on being an isolationist and being, we need to get out of all these wars and America first and all this stuff. And then he brings on essentially Dick Cheney's clone, just a little bit worse than Cheney, if that's even possible. So while John Bolton has been National Security Advisor, there's been a lot of things that have happened that get no media attention, because obviously the corporate media is in business. The corporate media is in business to essentially prop up war. The corporate media is in business essentially to keep the status quo as far as having over 1,000 military bases around the world, bombing 7 to 8 countries all at once. Everything from trying to overthrow the governments of Venezuela that we've been doing for several months. We are still arming Saudi Arabia to commit genocide in Yemen. We are trying to get involved with everyone from Iran, a potential war, to, honestly, if the neocons around Trump seem to want him to go to war with Russia, too. So John Bolton, being the National Security Advisor, is a dangerous thing. And by the way, we got 270 people watching. 108 of you have pressed that like button. Press the like button. It's right under the video. It's the thumbs up button. So the more people that press the thumbs up button, the more people that will see the live stream on this important breaking news. Press the thumbs up button. So let's get right down to it. John Bolton, CNN and everybody are reporting right now. Trump says that he fired him. Bolton says that he resigned. Who cares? Who cares if he resigned? He got fired. I don't give a damn, so I'm not even going to focus on that. If he resigned, great. If he got fired, even better. Doesn't matter. Who cares? Jordan's ghost is giving breaking news. Yeah, I don't really know what's going on with that. Let me take a look. Jordan's ghost. Yeah, something's funky with the camera, but we're going to go on anyway. Maybe it's a good theme for the live stream that my ghost is doing the live stream, because John Bolton is now a ghost. Thank the Lord. So John Bolton, who it is no coincidence that since John Bolton has been Trump's security advisor, national security advisor, we exited the Iran nuclear agreement, where, say what you want about Iran, there's no evidence. There was no evidence that Iran was breaking the nuclear treatment, which is one of the good things. If you want to give President Obama credit for anything, the Iran nuclear agreement was a good thing. So Bolton, basically, and the neocons around Trump had us get out of the Iran nuclear agreement, and now have this basic pissing match between Iran and America, which is no good for anyone. It's good for people who have investments in oil. It's good for people that have investments in Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, Boeing. It's good for the military-industrial complex for Bolton to be in there. They are very, very distraught that Bolton has resigned or fired or whichever one it is. So we have basically established a new, it's not a hot war yet, but definitely on the road to war under Bolton as the national security advisor with Iran. Bolton has also fought one of Trump's rare good instincts, which is to meet with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. What do you want to do? Do you want to just never meet with these dictators and ruthless killers and just forever have nuclear tensions? The media has painted Tulsi Gabbard as this Assad puppet and stooge and all these things, but you know what? The only way to actually have peace, have a little diplomacy, is to meet with even people that are deplorable. So I applaud Trump for meeting with Kim Jong-un. He hasn't gotten anything done, and I doubt he will, because he's a bozo real estate tycoon who was born on third base with a silver spoon in his mouth. He has no concept of geopolitical anything, and I don't think Donald Trump could actually come up with a peace agreement with North Korea. But I support him wanting to meet with Kim Jong-un, and guess what? John Bolton was kicking and screaming every which way for that not to happen. John Bolton wants to go to war with North Korea. He has wanted to go to war with North Korea his whole adult life. His mustache gets a little bit thicker every time war with North Korea is mentioned. Obviously, John Bolton, I made a joke about this in an interview I did with Ben Norton that we just posted today, Ben Norton from the Gray Zone. I bet you Dick Cheney has been calling the White House switchboard, or Mike Pompeo or Trump, say, hey, put me in, coach. Bolton can't get overthrowing the democratically elected leader of Venezuela. It shouldn't be taking this long. Put me in, Dick Cheney is saying. I know how to overthrow dictators and take their oil. I could do it in a month. So Trump was disappointed because they were embarrassed. We tried to illegally overthrow the democratically elected government of Venezuela, and it didn't work. I mean, Trump must be disappointed. He had CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the entire corporate media cavalry propping him up and propping up this propaganda that there's a humanitarian crisis in Venezuela and Nicolas Maduro is a madman, blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, actual independent journalists that are not corporate puppet stooges, like Aaron Maté from the Gray Zone, Ben Norton from the Gray Zone, Max Blumenthal from the Gray Zone, they all went to Venezuela and showed There's no humanitarian crisis. Here I am at the market. The food is cheap, this and that. The only crisis is the illegal sanctions that the United Corporations of America, we don't live in a country, we live in a corporation, the illegal sanctions that have been put on Venezuela, strangling their ability to borrow money internationally, strangling their ability to bring in food and medicine. It has killed, by UN estimates, 40,000 people. 40,000 people's deaths in Venezuela attributed to the United Corporations of America's sanctions. And for people just tuning in, I have no idea what's going on with the live stream. It looks like some discoloration. I wish I knew. Let me see. Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to check that after I'm live. There's something going on. But as long as you can hear me, whatever. So, call me Casper the Jewish Ghost. You could call me that. And remember, press the like button. The more people that press that like button, it's a thumbs up button right under the video, the more people that will see the live stream. River Song, $1.99 of the Super Chat. Will you be at Politico in Nashville next month? I don't know what Politico in Nashville next month is. Send me the information, info@statuscoup.com. Info@statuscoup.com. Send it to us at info@statuscoup.com. I'll check it out. So, Trump, Bolton either resigned, Bolton either got fired, whatever, who cares? But what's remarkable to me is that this is being looked at as a victory for, anti-war activists, peace activists, people that aren't down with the military-industrial complex. And don't get me wrong. Oh, don't wear green in front of a green screen. Why didn't I know that? Hold on. How's that? See, this is what happens. This is what happens when you don't have any technical help. When you're just doing it yourself and you have no idea what you're doing on the technical end. I think I might look a little bit less ghostly, hopefully. Lesson learned. Don't wear green in front of the green screen. So getting back to this. This is a victory for anti-peace activists. This anti-war activists. This is a victory for peace activists. However, let's not forget who Donald Trump is, who Mike Pompeo is, who Stephen Miller is, and who all of these people are. Mike Pompeo wants war. Mike Pompeo wants Venezuela's oil. Mike Pompeo would be very happy with war with Iran and anyone else, because all of these people in the Republican Party, and most of them in the Democratic Party too, are merchants of the military-industrial complex, as Mike Gravel so correctly says, sponsored by Wall Street. So it is not good for business. It is not good for Wall Street. It is not good for the fossil fuel industry. It is not good for the Pentagon budget for us to leave Afghanistan, for us to not seize other countries' oil, for us to have peace with Iran, for us to get out of to stop our involvement in the genocide on Yemen, which goes on to this day. To this day. It is not good for us to be having peace talks with North Korea. It is not good for the bottom line. And this is why, even though John Bolton has been fired today, thank you, Dominic Buscemi, $5 in the super chat. This is a super chat. I'm sure many of you are feeling super at this news that John Bolton is gone. So let us know in the super chat. Remember to like the video. We got 440 people watching, 265 likes. So we need over 200 more of you. Press the like button right under the live stream. So let's not pretend that Donald Trump, even though Bolton is gone, is the president we need. This has not been covered in the corporate media, but hey, quietly, very quietly, Pentagon sent 1,500 troops along with drones and fighters to the Middle East to counter Iranian threat. The Iranian threat created out of thin air by John Bolton and Mike Pompeo and all of these neocons in Trump's head. And Trump, let's not give Trump a pass. He's listening to them. But I think Trump is deplorable in a lot of areas, but I actually think genuinely he doesn't want to be at war with 25,000 countries. I think genuinely he thinks it's bad for business and the bottom line. He thinks, why am I going to spend that money there? I don't want to spend all this money all over the world. I want to spend that money on tax cuts for the rich. I want to spend that money on, building beautiful new buildings all over the country, blah, 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 blah. So Trump, I think, genuinely, it's not that he wants to totally destroy the military-industrial complex, but he's not as big of a warmonger than, let's say, Dick Cheney, George W. Bush, Mike Pompeo, Donald Rumsfeld. I don't think he's exactly like that. But because Bolton was in his ear, all of a sudden, this barely got any coverage in media. 1,500 troops were sent in May. Then, in July, we had another 1,000 troops sent to the Middle East to counter Iran. Yes, we must counter Iran, who was honoring the nuclear agreement that for all his faults, and I report all of Obama's faults here, at least he did something good, which was the Iran nuclear agreement, which was a good thing. My father might not agree. My father, God bless him, I love you, is a major Zionist. He thinks, he buys into Bibi Netanyahu and the propaganda coming out of there, and that Iran is, at any minute going to wipe Israel off of the face of the earth. But very quietly, because John Bolton was here, many of you might not know this, we had 2,500 troops sent to the Middle East to combat Iran, whatever that means. Donald Trump, even before Bolton came in, but Donald Trump, with John Bolton at his side, has doubled Obama's drone war, which never gets talked about, but the droning we have done all over this world, initially really, really amped up under the Obama administration and doubled down now under Trump, is creating an enormous amount of terrorism and hostility. Can you imagine? Listen, I'm not defending ISIS. I'm not defending Al-Qaeda or Hamas or any of these groups. Dan the Man, $4.99 in the super chat. Good riddance to Bolton. Couldn't agree more. If your wife or family or loved ones get droned to death at a wedding or on a school bus or wherever, do you think you're going to like the people who did it? So, again, not defending terrorists, but we have to start. The thing is, under Trump and with Bolton next to him and with Pompeo next to him and Stephen Miller next to him and all of these just idiot, doofuses, corrupt military-industrial complex servants, all they care about is keeping the military-industrial complex status quo. And what the status quo is we need to invent massive threats all over the world, because that keeps the fighter jets coming. That keeps the brand new submarines coming. That keeps the donors coming from the military, from the defense industry. And it keeps also Wall Street happy, and those Wall Street donations coming, because Wall Street is heavily invested in the military-industrial complex and these defense contractors, just like Wall Street is heavily, heavily invested in big pharmaceutical companies, the fossil fuel companies. No wonder Wall Street doesn't want Medicare for all or a Green New Deal. No wonder. So, as wonderful as it is that John Bolton has resigned, don't get tripped up, or resigned, got fired, whichever one. I think he got fired, but whatever. Let's not pretend that Trump is going to put in somebody like, he's not putting in Medea Benjamin from Code Pink as his national security advisor. God bless Medea. He's not putting in like Noam Chomsky. He's going to put in another warmongering hawk, just one that isn't as crazy as Bolton. And frankly, I think it's not out of the realm of possibility, folks. I mean, if you look at Donald Trump's poll numbers, not to mention anything of the Democratic primary, if you look at Donald Trump's polling numbers, they're declining more and more and more. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Donald Trump is the kind of person and president that would start a conflict with another country to spike his numbers. You think it's a coincidence that George Bush did surge in Iraq around the same time he was up for re-election in 2004, and on the debate stage called John Kerry, "You're unpatriotic for questioning or not backing the troops and not backing the surge." You don't think somebody like President Trump would do that? So he's not an isolationist. He's still down with the military-industrial complex. He's still fueling Saudi Arabia's jet planes mid-air to drop bombs on Yemeni school children, on their buses, on weddings in Yemen. We're still trying to overthrow a democratically elected leader in Venezuela, Maduro, where we have no business in Venezuela. And for saying that, Tulsi Gabbard has basically been painted as a lunatic for saying the truth. By the way, Maduro's not perfect, but he's not a great leader. I think he screwed up a lot of things in the Venezuelan economy, but he was elected. It's none of our business. Just like it's none of our business in Honduras, just like it's none of our business in El Salvador, just like it's none of our business in Iran. I mean, we need to focus on this country, which has turned into a corporation. So I think it's a mixed bag. I think it's great news that John Bolton is gone. I say gone with the wind. We don't need you. But on the other end, let's see who Trump brings in. And I doubt it's going to be anyone, a dove or an anti-war person. I also think we got to keep looking at these poll numbers, because if you used to watch House of Cards when he was still in the show, Kevin Spacey's character, it wasn't looking good for him to get reelected as president. And what did he do? He started a war. And I don't think Donald Trump is so far from that. I really don't. Vaquero, the Democrats will now rally behind Bolton. I wouldn't put anything past the Democratic Party, but if they do, that just shows they're warmongers too. And by the way, I want Trump. I want Trump gone. I want Trump gone. But let's call it what it is. On the Democratic side, Joe Biden's not going to cut that military budget that just got increased to $738 billion. Joe Biden's not going to do anything about, Saudi Arabia committing genocide in Yemen and our role in it. Joe Biden hasn't said a word about us trying to overthrow the Venezuelan government. Joe Biden at a fundraiser last week was basically, pounding his chest out that, if Russia doesn't get in line, they'll hear us. Basically, talking like he wants to start a conflict with Russia. And frankly, as scary it is to have Joe Biden's, as scary as it is to have Trump's finger near the button. I mean, are you watching Joe Biden speak? Are you watching Joe Biden in these debates at his public speeches? I don't know if I want Joe Biden anywhere near a nuclear button, because his mind isn't right. And the media is ignoring that his mind isn't right. They're pretending, it's a gaffe, he's gaffing, all this stuff. No, he's not gaffing. There's something going on cognitively. This is what happens to some older people when you get older. I'm not a doctor, I'm not diagnosing him, but come on. I remember, folks, we got 500 of you watching right now. We have 356 of you have pressed that like button. YouTube is suppressing this channel at every single turn possible. So how you could help us out is by pressing that like button. It's a thumbs up button right under the video. It makes a huge, huge difference. So press the like button right under the video. Now, Joe Biden, terrible. Kamala Harris, she's down with the military-industrial complex too. Elizabeth Warren voted for a $715 billion military budget. As far as I know, she hasn't said a word about us trying to overthrow the government in Venezuela. My former colleague, Emma Vigeland, asked her a question over the weekend at the New Hampshire Democratic Convention about, how do you claim you're progressive and you have all these domestic policies that are progressive, but you're also voting for a massive military budget. Elizabeth Warren's answer was to not answer. She basically said, if the question is, would I cut the military budget? Yes. Well, if you would cut the military budget, why did you vote to increase it to $715 billion? The only candidates that are serious about actually putting a dent in the military-industrial complex is Tulsi Gabbard, who, I like Tulsi Gabbard, but I'm just being honest, she's not going to become president, and Bernie Sanders, who has been speaking out about the military-industrial complex for decades, who has spoken out about us trying to overthrow the Venezuelan government, who initiated, Bernie Sanders, they say he's never done anything. Bernie Sanders is the one who, for the first time in American history, got the War Powers Act passed or utilized to stop the United States involvement in the Yemen genocide. Trump didn't sign it, but it passed the House and it passed the Senate. Bernie Sanders' leadership, along with Ro Khanna, made that happen. So let's be honest here. This is a good day. We got to take the victories where you could get it with with President Trump. Bolton being gone is a huge, huge victory. I think, bottom line, Trump is kind of, on foreign policy, is a bit of a wild card. He is down with the military-industrial complex. He has not gotten us out of Afghanistan. He might try to get us out of Afghanistan quicker than it would happen if not, if he wants to juice those poll numbers. So it's very possible it could be two things. Trump sees those poll numbers down significantly, so he either starts a war or he ends a war. I hope it's ending a war in Afghanistan, where we're going on 19 years there. 2021 will be 20 years in Afghanistan, which, why are we really there? Go watch the interview I just published with Ben Norton. I just published it like an hour ago. He says the real reason we're there is opium and the heroin trade. That's it. Opium and the heroin trade. So we need a Democratic candidate that can not only defeat the John Boltons of the world, but the Trumps of the world. And Trump is going to try and paint this as him being an isolationist, him getting rid of the warmongers, him getting rid of the neocons. He is a warmonger, Trump. He is a neocon. He's just a more flexible neocon. He's going to bring on somebody, maybe not as bad as Bolton, but of the same ilk. So we need, yes, celebrate Bolton being gone, but you got to keep your eye on the ball. Because again, quietly, while Bolton was advisor, Trump sent 2,500 troops to the Middle East to combat Iran. It's not like Trump is going to stop trying to overthrow the Venezuelan government and Nicolas Maduro. He wants Venezuela's oil. They have the largest oil reserves in the world. And frankly, I can understand why it's controversial for Trump to meet with Hamas leaders. I think he should. Are we supposed to do the same thing that we've been doing for 20 years and expect a different result? Meet with Hamas. It doesn't mean they're good. It doesn't mean they're not terrorists. But you know what? If you want to be serious about getting out of Afghanistan, you have to meet with the people that have kept this war alive. And Hamas is one of those groups. Be green. Ding dong, the psychotic death walrus is done. I see a lot of people excited about this. Warren is terrible on answering questions about international politics. She agrees with Hillary's war machine. Listen, everything I've seen from Elizabeth Warren on foreign policy has been pro-war. Nothing, there's nothing there that says she's going to cut the military budget. There's nothing there that says she would decrease military bases around the world. There's nothing there that tells us she wants to be more diplomatic with countries around the world. There's nothing there that thinks that where she says we need to stop trying to overthrow governments all over the world. And that's for a reason. She is trying to get endorsements from the Democratic Party establishment. I reported on this yesterday. She's been going around having hot tea with leaders of the Democratic Party establishment for several months, apparently. It just came out that she has been text messaging or calling on the phone Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton's not giving you advice to, give peace a chance. That's not who Hillary Clinton is. And lastly, it just came out that she took massive donations from big donors during her Senate re-election campaign, and then transferred that money over into her presidential campaign while claiming, I'm not taking big money. Well, in your presidential campaign, you transferred over $10 million from your Senate campaign and used that money in the beginning of your campaign. Jordan, do you know what Politicon is? I do know what Politicon is. Why do you ask? Am I going to Politicon? We got to be conservative with our money at Status Coup. Speaking of our money, we just passed, good plug, we just passed $70,000 raised. We just passed $70,000 raised in the GoFundMe. That's over the last year. We now are $15,000 away, less than $15,000 away, from reaching the ultimate goal of $85,000. So Somebody asked about Politicon. I know what it is. I don't know when it is. I don't know when it is, but I know what it is. If people want to send me there or want me to debate somebody, drop money in that GoFundMe and start the campaign for me to debate somebody. I'd be happy to. I'd be happy to debate. Oh, you know who I would love to debate? I would love to debate Neera Tanden. If Neera Tanden would show up, I would just love it. I would also love to debate Sally Albright. I'd love to debate Ben Shapiro. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that I would gladly debate. So if that's what you're talking about, do I know about Politicon? I do. I do know about Politicon. So let's read your comments, questions, concerns about the political death of John Bolton. Good thing, bad thing, great thing. Are you crying tears of joy? Have you walked? Have you ran out of ran out of work streaking? Trump will never appoint a Democrat. Of course, that's fair. I don't think he's going to appoint a Democrat either. Actually, that would be just as bad. People who see Ghost Jordan, you are behind in the stream. How about debating faux-gressives? Give me some options of which faux-gressives do you want me to debate? Krillin 876, $5 in the super chat. Pre 9/11 Taliban had banned opium. We protect the opium farmers, which increase supply. It's no coincidence that we have an opioid crisis. Krillin, you should have your own YouTube channel because that is the exact reason we're in Afghanistan. Opium. And you're right. They did ban opium before 9/11. It's a great point. Xavier Foster, $2 in the super chat. Warren lied about being a Native American her whole life. Correct. She has. And frankly, I don't think that issue is dead. I think if she became the nominee, very much going to come back to bite her in the butt. I do think that. David Pakman, I'd debate David Pakman. Tell you the truth, I don't watch him that much, so I don't really know what his positions are. I do know that he's got a bad case of Trump derangement syndrome. At Status Coup, I mean, we cover Trump when we feel it necessary, but most of the time we cover what actually led to Trump. The selling off of our government, water contamination all over the country, police brutality, corruption, basically, workers being destroyed, the theft of all of our money from the oligarchs and the plutocrats and the Donald Trumps of the world, shown in that red line. Since the 1980s, our productivity skyrocketing while our wages remain flat. That's what led to Donald Trump, not Russia and not James Comey. But don't tell Hillary that. Jordan, scared to debate me? Oh, I would love to debate you, John Delaney. Please let me debate you, John Delaney. I'd be happy to. Who else? Anna, kid from the Progressive Voice. This kid from the Progressive Voice, I'm not debating him. No offense, I don't know him, but what do they say? Punch up, not down. I'm not debating him. Anna, I guess I'd debate them. I don't know what they're saying these days. I don't watch the Young Turks anymore, so I can't tell you. I'm trying to think. Faux-gressives. I would love to debate, what's that guy on Twitter who's a big Hillary person? Oh, Tom Watson. I would love to debate Tom Watson. So, Progressive Voice literally peddles whatever Kyle says he doesn't have an opinion to give. It's true. And by the way, I would totally destroy Ben Shapiro into 25,000 little pieces. Honestly, when Cenk debated Ben Shapiro, I think it was a little embarrassing for the progressive movement. I'm just being honest. I didn't say so because I was working at the Young Turks at the time, but I think Cenk got his clock cleaned by Ben Shapiro, and I would clean Ben Shapiro's clock. Because Ben Shapiro was just like a one or two trick pony. He has the same Republican talking points over and over that are not factually based on anything, and I would just destroy him. So, classical music. I am Uyghur's son. I left LMAO. Bolton is such a loser. How many people did he needlessly kill in 2 years? Well, with Bolton and Trump, again, we have doubled down on Obama's drone war under Donald Trump. We have sent 2,500 troops to the Middle East to combat Iran since May. That barely gets covered in the corporate media. Trump has sent probably with John Bolton's, encouraging, 2,500 troops to the Middle East to combat Iran. We still have troops in Syria. We still have residual troops. This never gets talked about. We still have residual troops or advisors in Iraq. Okay? Venezuela, when are we going to send troops down there to topple the dictator, Maduro? But let's be excited today, but be cautious. It's not out of the question that Trump names a lunatic his national security advisor. It's possible he named Lindsey Graham his national security advisor, which would not be a good thing. So, Tim Pool is a libertarian, doesn't mean he's default baddie. Darren, Emma is lying constantly now to defend her fangirl love for Warren. No comment on that. I did debate her when I was at the Young Turks about Warren. She's definitely has been pro-Warren for a while. I'm not deranged about Warren. I don't think Warren is as bad as Joe Biden. I don't think she's as bad as Kamala Harris. I don't think she's as bad as Hillary Clinton. But I also don't think she's an authentic progressive. I don't think she's a reliable progressive warrior. I don't trust her like I trust Bernie Sanders. I don't trust her to fight for the things she's talking about. I also think she has a naive view of how to actually radically change things. You could regulate till you're blue in the face. A lot of what she says is a lot of what Warren says is about regulation and tightening up regulation. Well, there were regulatory bodies that were supposed to be regulating big banks. We still had a financial crash. There are regulatory bodies that are supposed to be regulating the communications industry, known as the FCC. They're not doing anything. There's regulatory bodies that are supposed to be regulating elections and campaign finance, known as the FEC. They don't do anything. If you have money flooding politics, regulatory bodies are generally toothless. So you can't regulate your way out of a rotten apple. And the rotten apple, the systemic raccoon that is suffocating your lives and stinks, is a structurally corrupt system. You got to address the corrupt system, and that is the fact that our government has been sold to the highest bidder. Our government has been sold to corporations. Our government has been sold to donors. And frankly, I don't know how Elizabeth Warren is legitimately going to fix that if she's saying, yeah, I'll take their money in the general election. I mean, you're basically saying corruption, bad during the primary. Corruption during the general, Corruption, it's not like alternate parking in New York City. You're either against corruption or you're not. And this New York Times story that came out yesterday about her, that she took $10 million for her Senate re-election campaign, and a lot of that money came from big fundraisers with the very CEOs she's saying are corrupting the system, the very large donors that she's saying she's not taking money from now. Well, she took their money in 2018 when she was up for re-election in the Senate, and then she transferred that money over to her presidential campaign while throwing her hands up saying, I don't take big money. Well, you did. That's how, if you've been following the campaign, that's how Elizabeth Warren was able to, originally, she staffed up the most in Iowa. She had the most staff on the ground in Iowa, and she spent the most money on staff in the beginning of the campaign because she had that money that that $10 million that she transferred over. Bernie Sanders transferred money over from his Senate office and campaign to his presidential. The only difference is he didn't raise that money at big fundraisers. He didn't raise that money from big donors. He raised that money from small dollar donors. That's the difference. So frankly, it's not exactly true that Elizabeth Warren hasn't taken money from big donors during the campaign, because she did. That money that she transferred over from her Senate campaign has been used for her presidential campaign. $10 million is a lot of money. Kirsten Gillibrand didn't raise $10 million. Cory Booker, he might have, but he's took him a long time to raise that much. Beto O'Rourke, taking him a lot of time. It's hard to raise $10 million, okay? And she had it because she had it right out of the gate, right in the beginning of her presidential campaign, because she raised it from big dollar donors. Now, some of you might say that are more like, oh, we got to beat Trump. We'll, worry about purity later. No. You can't worry about purity later, okay? So, first of all, where I think Elizabeth Warren is a little getting it wrong and alienating progressives, thank you, Stephen Lindsay Satterfield, $10 in the super chat. Appreciate it. Xavier Foster, $2 in the super chat. Warren knows what she's doing. She's a faker. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What I think Elizabeth Warren is getting wrong, Hillary Clinton outspent Donald Trump 2-1. Who's president? You could raise all the money in the world. It's not going to matter if people don't trust you. It's not going to matter if people think you're basically Obama reincarnated. Obama, promised to part the seas, heal the world, and he was taking more money than God from these bankers. No wonder he laced his administration with ex-Goldman Sachs bankers and didn't jail anyone that destroyed the global economy and, basically created a Band-Aid for a gunshot wound. Dodd-Frank. Thank you, Patrick Alston, $5 in the super chat. So, on Elizabeth Warren, even though the subject is Bolton getting fired, listen, I don't know how, the polls right now say the majority of Bernie supporters will vote for Warren. That might be true if Warren were the nominee. I don't know. But what I do know, I have traveled the country since 2016. I've spoken with thousands of people. I've spoken with a lot of progressives. The progressives that I've met and that I've talked to and that I know, they're not so quick to vote for someone who they think is kind of progressive when they feel like it. They're not so quick to vote for someone that they think is progressive like every other Tuesday. And the thing is, if Warren were the nominee, I don't know why she thinks she has to take big money in the first place. If you're the nominee against Donald Trump and you're actually an authentic progressive, which I don't think she is, you would have more money coming in from all over the country, small dollar donations. You don't need the corporate money to compete in that case. It's a whole new world. You can compete on social media. You could compete with small dollar fundraisers, which Bernie Sanders is doing right now. So, that's what I think. Wesley Walker Jr., $5. I wish I could donate more at the moment, but good riddance to bad rubbish. Thank you, Wesley. Appreciate it. And by the way, folks, any amount is appreciated, no matter what you could leave. And we appreciate super chats. We also appreciate GoFundMe. For those of you that don't know, YouTube takes 30% of the super chats from us. So that's why we launched the GoFundMe too, where we just passed 70,000 raised. Our ultimate goal is 85,000, so we're less than $15,000 away. There's the GoFundMe link in the super chat. Hafabal, $5. If Biden had to drop out, who do you think the majority of his voters would go to? Great question. I think if Biden drops out, a lot of his voters would go to Kamala Harris. I also think a lot of his voters would go to Bernie Sanders, because there's actually, strangely, and it's kind of infuriating to tell you the truth, a lot of Biden supporters are like blue-collar workers who, frankly, are not being informed by the media on Biden's actual record. Biden is not a friend of unions. Biden is not a friend of workers. Biden pushed and voted for NAFTA. Biden, as vice president, was trying to get Hillary Clinton to run on the TPP. Biden wrote in Foreign Policy magazine in 2016 how great the TPP is. NAFTA was basically... Let's put it this way. NAFTA was the gunshot to like the shoulder of the deindustrialized Midwest. So like the deindustrialized Midwest, the Rust Belt that elected Donald Trump, NAFTA was like the gunshot to the shoulder. If TPP passed, that's the gunshot to the head. Done. If TPP passes, forget about it as far as there being any jobs in the Midwest. And frankly, there's not a lot of jobs in the Midwest as it is. I'm saying livable jobs. You could work 2 to 3 jobs. So I think if Biden drops out, which honestly, I'm just keeping it real, I don't know how Biden is going to make it to Iowa without it becoming like blinking. Like, to me, it's already blinking red lights. The guy can't remember President Obama's name while giving a speech. The guy can't remember what city he's in. The guy can't remember which cities just had 2 mass shootings in 24 hours. I just got somebody just tweeted me. I could actually show it to you. Hold on. Apparently, 2 mass shootings in 24 hours. 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 2 apparently Biden just called Angela Merkel Theresa May. Oh, excuse me. Apparently Biden just called Angela Merkel Margaret Thatcher, who is dead. So Biden called Angela Merkel Margaret Thatcher. That's his latest. So Biden is not well. I mean, that's obvious to anyone paying attention. Biden, honestly, is essentially his whole campaign bumper sticker is let's just put the corruption back in the back room. A return to normalcy. Someone on MSNBC said, make America boring again. What Joe Biden is advocating for is essentially, let's be classy about the corruption. Let's have it behind closed doors, and let's not tweet crazy things. That's Joe Biden's campaign in a nutshell. But honestly, can you imagine Joe Biden on a debate stage with Donald Trump? I mean, Donald Trump has some mental issues himself, but at least he's not stuttering through his sentences. At least he's not forgetting where he is. At least he's not forgetting President Obama's name. At least he's not making these comments where when he's trying to articulate words, he's stuttering through them. And again, I don't like Joe Biden, but I'm not here to mock him. Like, I don't wish him poor health. What I do wish is for us to beat Donald Trump. I don't know how you're going to do it with somebody who's literally standing there, struggling to just cognitively stay afloat. And that's why his campaign doesn't want to put him out on the campaign trail that much. But it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you're his campaign, on one end, if you don't send him out on the campaign trail, then there's all these rumors and people pressuring you. Why is the vice president not campaigning? But when you do, he makes a different crazy comment every other day. Every other day, this guy is putting his foot in his mouth. So what do you do? What do you do if you're his campaign? It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. So that's it. John Bolton, gone like the wind. Oh, haven't heard anyone mention Biden's 2 brain surgeries in '88. You would think that's relevant. I think that's relevant. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I do think it's relevant. Hold on. Joe Biden, Angela Merkel. Oh, here it is.
International leaders spoke about it. You had people like you had people like the former chairman and leader of the party in Germany. You had Angela Merkel stand up and say how terrible it was. International leaders spoke about it. You had people like you had people like the former chairman and leader of the party in Germany. You had Angela Merkel stand up and say how terrible it was.
You asked me who would Biden's votes go to? I think a lot of Biden's votes would go to hold on. I think a lot of Biden's votes would go to Kamala Harris. I think a lot of them would go to Bernie, but I also think quite a bit of them would go to Elizabeth Warren because I think the establishment, and when I say the establishment, the corporate media is part of the establishment. So the corporate media is going to do whatever the establishment wants it to do. I think the corporate media is realizing Kamala Harris, she don't have it. She doesn't have it. She's barely gotten out of single digits for most of the campaign. She had that one moment during the first debate, but after that, her poll numbers went back down. So I think that's why you're seeing the corporate media is basically rallying around Elizabeth Warren as it's compromise. That's why corporate media, I put up a clip a few weeks ago. CNN brought on some random Democratic strategist no one ever heard to make some dramatic announcement that he's voting for, he's endorsing Elizabeth Warren. They're putting up poll numbers every day and distorting the poll numbers to make it seem like Elizabeth Warren has taken over second place from Bernie Sanders. She hasn't. Bernie Sanders just had 10,000 people in Denver. He just had 10,000 people in Denver Have you heard that on CNN or MSNBC or anywhere? Because I know you hear when Elizabeth Warren has 12,000 in Minnesota or 15,000 in Seattle, which, by the way, is good for her. She does have big crowds. She does have some momentum. But the media and the establishment, I think because they realize, hey, we tried. We gave Kamala Harris free airtime. We gave Kamala Harris as much time as we could. We tried to prop her up with adoring interviews. She just doesn't have it. And Biden doesn't have it. I mean, he's calling Angela Merkel Margaret Thatcher. He can't remember Obama's name. He can't remember what city he's in. He can't remember which cities just had crazy, tragic mass shootings within 24 hours. He's stuttering over his words during debates. He's literally ending his time before the debate moderators cutting him off. So, that's it. Kyle is very independent, does not rely on interviews or others. I don't know what Kyle does not need TYT. Oh, you guys are talking about something else. So that's what I think. So we'll see. Oh, 92 Laird says Pompeo next. If only there was a God. Pompeo might run for Senate. He might go and run for Senate, which would be nice. So that's it, folks. For those of you that don't know, I'm live at 5 o'clock every day, 5 o'clock Eastern time, 2 o'clock Pacific. So I'll be live again tonight with some other news, but I wanted to go live a little earlier in the day because this is breaking. John Bolton, the military industrial, let's call him the godfather of the neocons, has been fired from the Trump administration. So it's a good day for peace. It's a good day for the anti-war movement. Let's keep our eye on the ball because it's not like Trump is just going to bring in Medea Benjamin from Code Pink. He's going to bring in another warmonger. He's going to bring in another neocon. So we gotta keep our eye on it. But I'll be back at 5 o'clock. And remember, if you got a couple bucks, we're trying to grow our funding so we could get back in the field. We've raised $70,000 so far. We got less than $15,000 to go. So if you got $5, there's the GoFundMe link. We really, really appreciate it. And we're literally one donor away from 1,600 donors in 12 months. And that's a little deceiving, actually, because it's really been 9 months. For 3 months out of the GoFundMe, we were not able to go live on YouTube because YouTube blocked us from going live for 3 months, for those of you that remember. So we've really been able to promote the GoFundMe for 9 months. So keep it coming, and I will see you guys a little bit later, 5 o'clock Eastern time. Celebrate, pop the bubbly. John Bolton is gone. Peace.